almost 60. And he says that for the last 25 years, he's been on the campaign trail to make marijuana legal.
Believe it or not, this is the first time that I've ever been able to speak to norml as a whole group, or be able eventually to speak out through your cassettes and stuff through Jim Attorney. Although 82, I came to the board of directors, and Gordon Brownell thought that what I was saying about a California marijuana initiative was important, and that we ought to work out a liaison between Jack in the South and the growers in the North and come up with a simple paragraph that we used to call the Proposition 19 paragraph. Persons 18 years and older shall not be punished criminally nor denied any right or privilege nor be subject to any license, tax requirements, etc., for the personal possession, cultivation, transportation for personal use. We didn't get the wording, we didn't have the coalition. norml didn't back us then, but they did, as a result of that, in 1986, back the Oregon Marijuana Initiative, so I felt I had something to do with that. And a couple of years ago, I came to your convention and I said then that I thought that the '88 election was an important election, even if Reagan was going to pass the torch on to Bush. That you, as members of this legal constituency, the lawyers, those of you who are professionals and use the mantle of norml and its lawyers to press the information in professional circles, I felt you had an obligation to come out and force the Democratic Party, at least, to stand up for our rights to grow and consume in the privacy of our own homes. Now that we're maybe 9 million in my constituency now, I'm the only senator for home growers in the country. And I couldn't serve if I wanted to with all my felonies. So no one can say that I have political ambitions. The years that I've been banging at the door at the Senate to get them to call for a review of the Single Convention Treaty as it specifically applies to home growers. How many senators does it take to get and call for a review of the Single Convention? 1, to make a motion, 2, to second it, and a 3rd to say, to ask me about it. Send the information to my committee. I want to know. 3 senators. We have 3 now. Wellstone was in the well early. He knows what's going on. He's a college professor, as I understand. And you have another person in the senator who was elected just recently in Pennsylvania, Senator Wofford. During that campaign, the war on drugs was, in fact, a part of the campaign. There was knowledge in Pennsylvania that Thornburg was responsible for the UVA raid, for the Berry sting, for the Noriega extrication. At the cabinet level, he made advising and consenting decisions with the White House in the war on drugs, and people in Pennsylvania are up to their ears in it. And so it was a part of the debate. Although Wofford did nothing in our favor, he did nothing against us either. Although he never issued a paper, nor even a comment about privacy other than on the women's abortion rights issue. But the truth of the matter is that he knows, as we know, students were involved in his campaign across the state. And the students at First Step at Penn State and the students at Penn State norml made a difference. In a county where it's 2-to-1 Republican, we only lost the county by 3,400 votes, and we should between 4,800 and 5,000, which means that we picked up 1,500 votes in the center county that aren't all students. That's door to door. That's kids went on the phone banks. They put up flyers. See, the very, very beginning. We had already taken Jack's book to Senator Spector's, norml, you know. We got him in our sights next. We've done one. I told these kids in Pennsylvania, I said, I never in all the years that I've been in politics do I ever remember when the students anywhere had a chance to be and have a real impact in a senatorial race with a candidate who 1 year later, the other senator would also be viable for election. They time the elections every 2 years, so it rarely ever happens. If there's a deceased, it's usually the wife of the deceased who serves out the interim term until the election. Thus, we had a candidate. 364 days later, we can knock off 2 senators in Pennsylvania of the same major party who have had the same attitude about the war on drugs. And that's the legacy that these kids have for themselves. The unit is up. They just had a victory. The first time they came out, they elected a senator. It makes a difference. And now they have the structure, the liaison with the major party, the intent to dump this next senator, so there will be no break for the holidays. They're going home and talking. They're distributing bumper stickers. They have buttons. The campaign for 92 is on. I told them then it didn't matter whether California moved their primary up from June to March to offset the January caucuses in Iowa because Harkins was going to run and make a favorite son candidate. Or New Hampshire would fall in Tsongas' hands because he's the favorite son from Massachusetts. Nor New York would continue the Mario dance all the way up to June and July right into the convention. Another favorite son state. Texas would take Ann Richards, another favorite daughter state. So there would be, for the first time since 1960, perhaps no one on the first ballot would win. Therefore, it's an open convention. The decision will be made in a hotel room somewhere, not on the convention floor. And I said, you have an opportunity to make sure that the war on drugs and the privacy issue and the hemp question, that is, how many senators does it take to review the single convention treaty, for farmers to have the same rights as the framers did to grow hemp at their homes. If you do that this year, you can force the Democratic platform to hear us and develop a plan that covers the rights of privacy and the rights of the economy to have a different and a commodity into it that has what they call family plan cottage industry economics. In other words, if you are to finally license hemp to be grown, are we talking about acres and acres of hemp, farm road, laid with pesticides, a new industry? No way, baby. Too many home growers have had their houses lost. That's not what it's about. This revolution, we got a $50 billion domestic industry now, smoking good green herb in this country, and it belongs to us, and it isn't all gangsters. It's got it, you know it. Fair market. I heard the genie come out of the bottle the other night talking about Adam Smith economy. They cannot talk the Adam Smith miracle without talking the role of hemp in the early colonial economics. It was the cash crop. Everything else belonged to the crown, or it was taken up in your expenses. And it grew everywhere, and it was wild. And for anybody to come in here and talk libertarian and say to us that we have not produced the finest product, uniform quality, home delivered, through a trust network, that it takes spies, snitches, dogs, informants, payrolls, government agents, hotlines, and millions of dollars of advertising on the TV. And we are the #1 agricultural cash crop in the country with no government subsidy.